Welcome to Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020. My name is Søren Land and I'll be your host and moderator during today's program. I'm here with my great colleague, CEO Kristian Skaarup, and Kristian will take over from here in just a few minutes. We are sending live from Odense, Denmark, the center of the robotics and drone cluster. In 2019, we did the Lorenz Drone Summit live from HQ in Odense. Here we decided to go on and doing the event online. I think we have managed to bring together a really great and relevant conference program. So why don't we start having a look at today's program? If we look into it, you'll see that we'll be on at 9:15 with real-life application of drones. And here we have brought in 3 keynote speakers from 3 highly relevant segments. You'll be listening to the police. You'll also be introduced to the Port of Esbjerg. And in the end, we'll have live from Essen, Germany, CONDOR IMS GmbH by CEO Cornelius Toussaint. Then we'll have a brief break and be back with Q&A session. So when it comes to questions, please note that you can punch in your questions in the live chat below this window at any time. We'll try to bring in questions at the end of the keynotes if possible, and otherwise we'll bring them in during the Q&A session at 10:15. At 10:30, you'll be able to be introduced to product launches from Lorenz Technology and look forward to learning about the integration of the new DJI M300, on the advantages of flying assisted missions, and in the end, my colleague Kristian Skaarup will be back again, introducing the latest work on AI on ports. Then, once again, a brief break, and back with a look at the future, facilitated by some highly relevant viewpoints. We'll bring in, from the commercial point of view, Mr. Kristian Skaarup representing DJI, and we are proud to have DJI on board today giving their input. And Kristian will look into the use-based pros and cons, one of the central elements being able to bring in beaverless flights and more complex flights. So following up on the commercial point of view, we'll move on to the research point of view with Associated Professor Mr. Kjeld Jensen from University of Southern Denmark, who'll look into how to reach this beaverless stage and be able to do complex flights. I think for now that is all. I'll be back, but Kristian, the stage is yours, please.
Thank you, Søren. Thank you for the introduction. And first of all, welcome to you all out there. I hope that you're all, of course, your families and all your co-workers, they are well and fine during these times. This year we're doing an online event, and let's be honest, this is a completely new scene for us. It's a new format. Last year we had a drone event at our location in Odense, where we were able to showcase in real life drones on missions, drones flying, drones doing specific tasks. This year we won't be able to do that live, but we have done a lot of pre-recordings that we are looking forward to showing you later. This year, as it is an online event, we have also been able to broaden our audience, meaning that last year it was a physical event. We had people from Germany, from Denmark participating. This year we are having an audience from all over Europe, and I even think that we have people from India also signed up for the event today, so a warm welcome to you all. But first, before we get really started, I would like to take you back to last year. Because last year we did a physical event where we introduced some of the foundations that we have built upon since last year, and we are now expanding into new capabilities this year. We did a conference last year, a drone summit, where we introduced our product integrated with the DJI M210. We also launched last year and presented last year the possibility of doing autonomous flights with integrated products, meaning that you could pre-plan flights, you could send drones on missions, you could collect and save data on a cloud platform. We also introduced last year real-time streaming, and that is real-time streaming with sub-second latency. And as you can see on the screen, we also introduced last year the version 1 of our first robot integration. So, if we take a look at what we have actually done by Lorenz Technology and what is the core and the basics of what we do. Taking the screen from the left side over here, the operator brings out the drone to a facility or to a port. He sends the drone in air. The drone automatically connects to the Lorenz cloud platform. So, meaning that it streams in real time with sub-second latency to the cloud. This can be viewed from the headquarters, and it can even be shared in real time with local authorities. This is the basics of what we do, and this is where we have extended with the robot last year also, meaning that we can now control missions and we can now stream directly from the robot platform. And how do we do that? Yeah, we do that by having the cloud platform, what we call the Lorenz Hive. It's a cloud platform that can be that you can access simply by using a browser or any kind of tablet, phone, computer that you're using. The cloud platform connects to the Lorenz AI link, and the Lorenz AI link is somehow the basic of what we do. It's an edge computing device that makes sure that the pre-planned routes, they are flown, that the stream is streamed with sub-second latency directly to the cloud platform. And it can be mounted on multiple or various kinds of drones, and it can be mounted on driving robots. So, it means that last year we had a huge progress. We showed this work in real life. I actually brought what has happened since then, because since we did the announcements last year, we have now introduced the Lorenz AI link, and I'll just move it to the side here so that you can see it. The Lorenz AI link as a physical unit, meaning that we now have an AI link that is IP55. We have an AI link that is plug and play with the DJI M210, and we have an AI link with 4G connectivity that can stream directly from the drone to the cloud in real time with low latency. You're seeing it on the screen now, where it's mounted on top of an M210. So that is actually one of the basic things that happened since last year. We introduced the AI link as a single unit that we can distribute directly here from Denmark. So what are we bringing in on top of that this year? Yeah, first of all, I of course also need to mention to you that and send a big thanks to the whole team at Lorenz Technology, because we have been working extremely hard since last year's event to take this even further. So the whole team, both here today and back at the office, thank you so much for the great effort. It's been fantastic over the last year, because we have actually been able to take our cloud platform and move it into a global distributed platform, meaning that we can now distribute our cloud platform on the Microsoft Azure platform. And what does that give you of benefits? It actually gives you the benefit of that we can now install our system in the region where you're based, and we can guarantee you sub-second latency on all your video streaming and make sure that all the data comes from the drone directly to the cloud platform. On top of that, our team has been working extremely hard together with Post Telecom in Luxembourg. They are actually now providing us a complete solution where we can, in Denmark, install their units into the AI link, and we can distribute our units globally so that they, via 4G connectivity, can connect anywhere in the world. So it's global connectivity to the AI link. The team has also been working extremely hard to introduce a new kind of insurance. It's a flexible, it's a risk-based insurance program that we have done in cooperation with Flock Insurance, where we can now, or where they have now accepted the Lorenz AI link as an operator or a pilot. This means that every time you're flying using the AI link, the risk is lower, you will get a lower price on your insurance rates, and this can be done on a global scale. So all the improvements, or at least some of them that we have been doing over the past year, is based on having this global distribution method, this ability to distribute our products globally. So, what are we trying to even top this with this year? We are introducing you some very exciting stuff later on. We will have our CCO Anders Olsen on stage, who will present fully integration of M300. We will have Nicole, our Senior Innovation Manager, presenting assisted flights. And I myself will be on stage later to try to show you some of the latest progressions we have done within the utilization of AI on board the drone. So, this year we are introducing how we actually can utilize this edge computing device we have on board the drone and all the capabilities that will bring us in the future. So, this was actually the first introduction to what we're going to do today.
But thank you very much, Kristian. Thank you. High IP rating on the AI link. Is it really necessary to have as high an IP rating to go out there and fly?
If you look at, especially now that we're based in Scandinavia, we have extremely bad weather here. We think we have extremely bad weather here. We have a lot of rain. When operating at the ports, we have a lot of wind speeds, high wind speeds. But especially the rain is a huge problem here. We have both rain and snow, and with an IP55 approval, you can actually operate in all kinds of weather, and it's actually matching where the drones are going. All the drones are now going in a direction where they will also be IP rated, meaning that we can make sure that we can operate in any weather condition.
Well, Kristian, thank you very much. Great introduction, and I hope all of you out there got a great impression of the product, how it works, and also a peek into what will be later on in the program. I think this really did it. And well, I'd like to thank you once again and move over to our first keynote speaker. And I'll just move over here. Please join me at the table. I'm here with Deputy Chief Superintendent Kim Voigt Munksgaard from the Police of Fyns. And Kim, we're very happy to have you. As I see it, the Police of Fyns holds a central position in the National Police Force when it comes to drone technology implementation. And we really value the collaboration with Police of Fyns, and we're happy to have you here today, Kim. You'll be in on police and drones, public safety and crime fighting. And well, Kim, I think I'll leave the stage to you, and then I'll be back if there are time for questions later on. But please, Kim, the stage is open.
Thank you, Søren, and I'm so pleased to be invited and be here today. And thank you, Søren, and thank you, Kristian. That's right, Søren said, we have a leading position in Denmark. We implement the drone program in the National Police, so that's why I'm here representing the law enforcement in Denmark, and of course, the Fyns Police, Fyns Politi. I would like to give you an impression of how we use drones in our operational police task on daily basis, and how it started and where we are today, and what the dream could be in the future. So let's move on, and welcome to you all in Europe, and as I heard Kristian, in India. I'm so pleased to welcome you too. Drones in the police is fairly and rather new. We started up in 2017, and we had some difficulties in one of our ghetto areas in our district called Vollsmose. We would like to have a better overview, a better knowledge of how they reacted and how they committed their crime. So one of our colleagues mentioned, one of the ministers on a visit down there, that drones could be the solution. And so to speak, it went fast after that. We started up a partnership with the University of Southern Denmark, Kjeld Jensen, which you will meet later on today. And we took off very quickly, so to say. I will now give you an impression how we use drones, and in the following slides, I will give you details, and I will show you some pictures from one of our tasks we have used our drone into. We use drones, as you see here, as in flights over accidents to get a better overview and crime scenes. We get a better dimension in our crime scenes when we can see things from above. We use drones in observation in the matter of see how our gangs meet up, who meet who, and so on. Drones is very good to use in areas where we cannot move on ground, in cars, on foot. For example, when you want to hide some stuff in a wood, in a forest, you can't follow them on the ground. A drone on a distance of 500 meters is excellent for that task. Fires, environmental issues, coastal rescues, cultural events, what we call crowd control, and humanitarian searches of deceased person is one of the key tasks we use drones. But drones are not used for fun. A lot of people ask us, yeah, that's fun to use drones, but we don't see it like a toy. We see it as a serious tool to lift our task on a higher level, so to say. So we use drones when we, from that perspective, can say that it will improve our resource utilization, our security will be improved for our police members, our police operations. Great overview in focus area, better overview and documentation in event of accidents, and faster rescue in humanitarian searches, as said before, of deceased person, and at last, improved cooperation between emergency actors on the scene. That's the keynotes. We are today 17 plus 2. Those plus 2 is from the Home Guard, and 19 drone pilots, and this figure is increasing. It's a lot of drone pilots to manage, to keep in the air material and education and so on. That is some of our drones in our fleet in Fyns Police. We use DJI. I think DJI have a product where price and quality is very good. We use the Matrice 210, and we hope soon to introduce the M300. That is, we consider would be better for our use in law enforcement, in terms of better weather resistance and so on. We also have the small drones, Mavic 2, Mavic Air. Mavic 2, we got the Enterprise, both the dual version and the Zoom version. We started off with the Phantom 4 Plus Pro. We made our first experiences with that drone type, but we relatively fast realized that fixed camera wasn't good to the solution of our tasks. So we fast moved on to the M600, but the M600 is a very big drone and it makes a lot of noise, and the criminal will relatively fast realize that we have drone in the air. So our best drone at the time is the M210. It is what we call our Swiss multi-tool. Can be used to all our tasks and with two sensor types simultaneously mounted. I will now give you an impression by showing you some photos of some realistic and some real police tasks where we have used drones and profited from the use of drones. Here we got the Great Belt Bridge, the low bridge. We had a fire and truck loaded with biological waste, and the waste was pouring into the water. So colibacteria was pouring into water, and we got the Nyborg beach almost 500 meters away. So in the summer day, a lot of guests were on the beach. Should we evacuate, or how could we do that? So by the drone pictures sent to a chemist, we could decide that it was not a danger to anyone, and we could continue our work on the bridge and get the bridge open faster. Here we got a fire in a villa where we had the suspicion that it could be caused by a criminal act, but by using of our drone with a thermal video, we could decide from the air, in cooperation with the firemen, that the fire was started in a camping caravan placed at the end of this villa, and the fire was moving up under the roof and was moving alongside the roof, and that was the cause, and it was not caused by a criminal act. Here, a drug rape. In our hurry of rescuing this young lady, we had to move her from this park, great park, a large park, and we haven't been picking up those traces. So afterwards, by using the GPS position from the drones, we could send out several dogs and find in few minutes sperm traces and go to court with those documentation. So the drones in that particular case were very good. This is a picture from a crowd control situation. Football supporters moving around, yelling and make some violent behavior. When they see the drone in the air, we have the experience that this security creating behavior is on a very low level, because they know that we can afterwards court them and take them to court if they have done something criminal during those walks towards the stadium. Here, another serious situation, a traffic fatal right turn accident with a truck against a cyclist. An older lady died in this actual position, in this actual situation. But we can use drones to make a documentary afterwards in cooperation with the car inspector. And the car inspector receive our photo from the accident scene, and from this picture he can create a documentary to bring to court. Yeah. We have some problem with noise. Thank you. Drones enable an improvement of I have to say here, yeah. Drones enable a better cooperation in emergency actors on the scene. Here we see environmental pollution, and from the air we can see this film on the water, and can decide how serious this situation actually is. And here we got a arrest action. Dangerous perpetrator has fixed himself in this compound, and from a distance of 800 meters with the drone in the air, you can see on the right, we can zoom in, and the men, our policemen, and the leader at the place can decide when to go and where the perpetrator is, and when the right time was to attack and to actually caught this perpetrator and make an arrest. And finally, all our flights can be monitored in a command center. And after we have used our drones from 2017 and up to date, we always is asked, can we just get a live feed from the scene? And we couldn't do that before, so a live signal from the scene is now obvious to the management in the back to make better decisions of higher quality and lower risks. And here we got another situation to decide whether it was suicide or a criminal act. We found a naked person in the water and could not decide whether it was a suicide or a criminal act caused in this situation. So by sending up a drone, we could see and quickly find his clothes and the footsteps from the clothes towards the water, and therefore we could decide that it was a suicide and nothing else. Sad, but true. So that was my introduction to how we in law enforcement uses drones, and we are very glad of the cooperation with Lorenz, and we have been testing the AI link and the Hive, and yes, we are so glad to have the opportunity. We're happy that we had the collaboration, Kim, because it gives us valuable insights. Just a brief question. We looked into some of the drones you're flying. How do you view the quality of the drones, or you could also say the demands of quality in order to be able to use them in real life actions? What are your demands? What would you like from the drones? We would like drones with high weather resistance, as water. We need to go up in dark, we need to go up in rain, in strong wind, and we sometimes use our drones in wind that is higher than recommended, but we have to do so. So that's our main demands. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Kim. Once again, thank you for participating and giving valuable input to our audience out there. I hope you enjoyed the keynote from Kim Voigt Munksgaard. And Kim, I'll take over the stage now. And thank you very much for participating. And moving on with the program, going on towards the next keynote. We have Mr. Jesper Bank from Port Esbjerg. Jesper Bank is Chief Commercial Officer on the port, and we have experienced Port Esbjerg as what you could call a real front runner when it comes to implementation of
all kinds of new technologies, and here also including drone technology. With an ever steady increasing number of drone flight hours on Port Esbjerg, Port Esbjerg was an obvious choice to bring in on today's program. And we'll have Jesper Bank with us online on a stream from Port Esbjerg. So I'm looking out there and see if Jesper's there. He should be there. Jesper Bank, welcome to Lorenz Drone Summit.
Thank you, and thanks for having me from Port Esbjerg out in the real world right now. Yes.
I'll leave the stage to you, Jesper, and I'll probably give you a brief note that says 2 minutes when we get to that part of the keynote.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having giving me this opportunity to present Port of Esbjerg and elaborate on how we use technology, and in this case, especially how we use drone technology. First of all, an overview of the port. We cover quite a large area, 4.5 million square meters, stretched along 12 kilometers of quayside. And also, obviously, we are situated with water on one side, so we also have a water surface, which is interesting for us to follow to some extent. Just a few facts and figures to give you an impression on what we are, what kind of size we are. We handle around 90,000 trailers a year. We handle at least 50,000 new cars, import cars per year for sales on the Danish market. We do a huge number of components to the wind industry, both offshore and onshore. And we are by far the most trafficked port in Denmark, with 6,000 calls per year, also including a number of passengers. Also, we are one of the more diverse ports in Denmark. We have a vast number of activities, with some of them listed here as the major activities of the oil and gas and import and export of trailers and again, wind energy. Just a few more facts and figures. I will admit that in an international context, we are a very, very small port. You can see that on the lower right side compared to some of our colleagues, Zeebrugge, Hamburg and Rotterdam. But having said that, we are world-class, state-of-the-art in wind turbine, offshore wind, dealing with all the majors. And also in the Danish context, anyhow, we are the export channel to UK. So we handle 71% of all trailer traffic to the UK from Denmark, being bacon and agricultural products. So just a brief note that Brexit is a huge issue by us right now. Okay, away from the figures, next slide just shows you some of these figures on a more physical manner. You see both the size of the port and you see a diversity of activities. Okay, then turning to the subject of technology. So why do we use technology? We know why, but there are many reasons, a vast number of reasons. I listed some of them here, but summing up of all these different reasons, the reason that we are active in technology is that we want to be a part of creating our own future. We will not just follow what others do. We have a size and we have a type of customers that enable us and actually demand that we are kind of front runners on the technology side. Also, we have a size in company and activity that is overlookable, so to say. So we are a good case, and that's why we are able to attract companies like Honeywell, the big American technology provider. They need a case to show some of their technology, And here Port of Esbjerg is have a size and a diversity which is interesting. Going a dip down, next page, if we're going a bit down in how we work technology, the technology in itself is not very interesting for us. Also coming to drones, the drones in themselves are not very interesting for us. It's the user interface and the output which is extremely interesting. What you see here is our technology interface. It's a system called One Port Esbjerg, and it's like a one point of access using your finger or your mouse to click in to all kinds of documentation you can find, going from rental contract to environmental assessment reports and photos and everything. And the system works from, if you go here from the far left corner and down to the right, you'll see you kind of are able to click your way into the system and get all different kinds of documentation. This user makes it very applicable and very easy for our employees to use it and not having to think about the technology in itself. Next page, please. Yes, and the drone part, the drone technology and the cooperation that we have with Lorenz is a part of this one port system. On the far left corner up, you'll have the one port, and on the right you'll see kind of the same picture, obviously, but that's the drone. What the drone technology helps us is to get more higher quality and more online on our documentation. Obviously, if we fly drones every 2 weeks, every week, or every day, we will have online data. Unlike what you see on your right in one port, that's kind of like a photo taken by airplane twice a year. So the drone technology here makes us able to go more almost online. So why are drones technology important for us? Yeah, obviously you see we cover a quite large area, difficult to overview if you're driving in a car. We are multidimensional, meaning that we are interested in the air, the weather, also mentioned by the police, and we are obviously interested in the quayside and land area, and then we're also interested in what is going on underwater. So we are multidimensional, and drone was in matter also. And then, as I explained, with the diversity and number of activities that we have, we are very dynamical. We have a lot of traffic, and having said that, the port in itself only controls about 10% of the activity in the port. The rest is done by companies. So by day, we don't have an overview or a system to overview the activities. And here drones technology can help us. Next page. And here you'll see what you see on this picture is activities not controlled by the port. The trailer parking is not controlled by the car parking or the components, and that's not controlled, but obviously it's of interest to the port. So drones help us document this. Obviously, we control the traffic with vessels. Yeah. So let me introduce the first case that we have implemented. I can start by saying that we have a list of about 25 projects which could be interesting, but to make it work in reality, we pinpointed 2 cases. Wanted to implement these and have them being a part of our daily work. The first one is controlling the integrity of our quayside structures and our safety ladders. And the way it works, going from the center photo and clockwise around, there are predefined routes where the drones fly by the key structure, and you see going around the clock, you see the key structures that we, the photo from the key structures. And what's happening here is that one of our colleagues, he gets this video and he looks this video through and try to pinpoint where are there differences, where are there safety ladders that has to be repaired, or tires or anything hanging down from the quayside which has to be removed. Before we had the drone technology, this was done by car and physically or by a boat, obviously making it more difficult or time-consuming and more expensive. Now this particular flight here can be done in 10 minutes, and by us looking through the video, it only takes 10 minutes. So going from a 2-day job, this could be done in 20 minutes. As it is right now, these are we have agreement that we should have a flyby of all our key sites 6 times per year, and this is done on fixed schedules. Obviously, sometimes there'll be a vessel there, and then they can't film, but then the next time, hopefully, there's another vessel there. And what's important of this one is obviously the quality of the photo, so that we can really use it to detect failures. The next case is land lease documentation. If you look at the big picture on the right-hand side up in the corner, you'll see that we have a large area with an enormous amount of components. And the way we do it in the port is that you lease area by use. And we can obviously use drone technology to identify how much area you use this week or this day or this month. And we have created with Lorenz a technology or a feature that we can press. We want an area rental report, and we can press. We can mark up the area, and we can make a click, and then we have a report that we can send to the customer, including an invoice. Going back, this was done by measuring manually, putting out one of our port assistants with a measure wheel and running around the port. That was very good for the physical part, but very, very time consuming. Both these two cases, there are many more layers that we want to put into these, but it has been extremely important for me to say, okay, we want to implement it in the simplest possible way so that we can use it in our organization and towards our customers, and then we'll put on layers afterwards. Next page, looking for future projects, which we are discussing internally right now. How could we expand the drone technology or the concept to go underwater drones or other types of cameras, being able to use to film our seabed conditions. We have changing seabed conditions every week because we are in the center of the Wadden Sea, and it's extremely important for us that we have this overview to be able to accommodate the vessel calls. So this is a project that we are looking into on how to implement. Yes, and also obviously there are issues around monitoring of oil spill, damage control, which could demand an online drone in the area, and this is what we're looking into. Hopefully, perhaps in 12 months or around, we'll have a drone situated in the port on a demand call by 1 hour. So that's the ambition. Yes, and I think I'll sum up with that one. There is again a picture of the port on a sunny day. Yeah, I'll sum up here. That's it.
Thank you very much, Jesper. Thank you for participating and for giving once again your highly relevant input. Just a brief question before I let you go, Jesper, and move on to the next speaker. Is there any chance that there's an advantage in kind of establishing network between ports who use drones? Could that be of interest? And the interaction and the sharing of insights in order to, as a business, move on faster?
Ports in general are very geographical bound, so we are where we are. So we have a close dialogue with our friends in Seebrugge, in Cuxhaven, in Hamburg. So sharing drone technology, and it's not a main activity of us. So if someone invented the deep plate in Rotterdam, we would very much glad to look at it. And the other way around, there are almost no secrets when we're talking about drone and documentation, because we serve the same customer. So in the end, the customers get the benefit.
Thank you, Jesper. And I think there might be ports out there who are happy to hear that you were also willing to share some of your insights as one of them that we see as a front runner when it comes to implementation of new technology. Thank you very much, Jesper. Jesper will be back later for the Q&A session. And when talking about Q&As, make sure that if you have questions, punch them in the live chat below the stream window, and we'll look into them, try to bring them in on the keynotes. Otherwise, we'll take them during the Q&A. Right now, moving on to the third and last keynote before we'll have a short break. We move on to the security industry. Solution for the next level in security industry, done by Cornelius Toussaint, who is the CEO of CONDOR Schutz und Sicherheit, based with HQ in Essen, Germany. CONDOR is a very interesting security provider due to the fact that they are in on almost all of the major security segments, including like railroads, road and infrastructure, ports, and also person protection. At the same time, we experience that CONDOR are taking huge steps toward the implementation of new technology. We see that CONDOR comprises subsidiaries who are focused on new technology, like, just to take an example, Europe, who are working with the unmanned systems, the German drones, and also what is called CONDOR Multicopter and Drones. So I hope I have Cornelius Toussaint from CONDOR live on a link from Essen right now. Are you there, Cornelius?
Yes, I'm there, and I'll help you really hear me and understand me.
Everything is okay, seen from here, regarding audio and visual. Cornelius, we're so happy that you could join today. Happy to have the CEO of CONDOR on the Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020. I'll leave the stage to you, and I'll get back probably with a brief remark when you have 2 minutes left.
Thanks a lot. And well, I'm very happy to join this summit. I was last year in Odense, and the plan was to come up there, of course, this year again. Yeah, we all have this pandemic situation, and so I had to decide to follow our own rules to reduce travels as much as possible. But I'm very happy and glad to follow this day, and hope to give you some input as well. Question was, what can I tell about the next level of security in combination with drone? And to give you a little bit of background, Søren already told a little bit of it, and I hope it's the right presentation. We are a family business in second generation. We have something around 800 employees in Germany. And one of the keys or the facts is that research and development is part of our general philosophy. So that means technology and new innovations was always part of our services. And the idea was always to combine new technologies with our standard figures. So we are active in the field of rail with fences, with noise barriers. We have different qualification management tools. And of course, we do a lot of UV technology since a couple of years. And we have seen already from police and from Port of Esbjerg a couple of solutions, a couple of ideas to follow up. And yes, hopefully I can give you some extra information. So where are we active with our companies? We're active in different fields, from the rail, more or less on safety, not on clear security, but also in airports, and baggage control, on the roads, in harbors, and of course as a company for security in building and facilities. Søren already told, we are not only working with one single drone. We are not working with one single drone branch, but what we tried is to focus our drone operations to be combined with our standard business portfolio, and that means that we built up in the last couple of years at this moment 4 different companies with different aspects, going from the left to the right. German Drones, our startup in Berlin, which developed a VTOL flight system and software to fly, especially BVLOS for critical infrastructures for huge areas. We have a special company in south of Bavaria, specialized on all the drones and solutions for police, fire demands, security companies, and we have another one in Bielefeld, just in the middle of Germany, for pilot training for indoor drones, but also for industrial applications and management. And our IMS, which stands for International Maritime Services, uses 24/7 security drones and is the link for today to Odense. This is a partner for the Lorenz Hive solution, and we started, I think, 2 years ago, the corporations, or 3 years ago, was a meeting in Paris, and are going now further and further, and hopefully next week we will close another contract for 1 year security on one of the harbors in northern Germany for some construction works. Yes, so this was a little bit what we are coming from, and now the point is, what is my dream, and or was the dream of our company, to see drones and security. And most of you will know this upper picture in the cloud, which is what I see there, the point, and this comes as well to Port of Esbjerg. The drone is only a transport medium, but the thing is, what do we get out of it? And for us as a security company, it's necessary to have information of drones, either in the monitoring station or following for the guards itself outside. If I tell about dreams, we have, of course, special dreams, and maybe here are some points. Similar to the police, we do see drones as a support of mobile guards, either if they're outdoor or indoor, either to protect them in the way they are or in the field where they are, or to give live data on to the monitoring stations to support with a 4th or 5th or 6th eye. We do see as well 24/7 regular patrol service with drones, which means that nobody has to walk around kilometers of fence day by day, but that this will be done by drones, and following all this information and data information, it needs, of course, some support with artificial intelligence. We've seen this also already, and this is one of the points I'm really keen of, the use of artificial intelligence, for example, with the Lorenz solution, but also for other solutions. So state of technology, where are we today? And you see there are a couple of drones which are part of our portfolio. We said we don't have one drone fixing all, but we need different drones, either from indoor or the M210 or M300, which we are using as well in our companies, similar to special drones, which we self-deployed with partners, either for police or installed with extra payloads like loudspeakers. The one on the very right is our fixed wing drones flying up to 2 hours. So for different aspects, different parts, and of course, not only the drones, but also the payloads, which are quite different. So what we do see at this moment is technology of drones is going forward and doing many steps ahead, but we also have some problems and restrictions. Surely one of them, the biggest restrictions is for everybody, the regulations for daily use cases. In some of the countries in Europe, it's easy to fly even BVLOS, but in other countries it needs days and days to prepare your flights, and this really gets a problem. Another point is we have either consumer drones, and this was just taken by the police, flying not only in good weather conditions, but for security reasons and safety reasons. In rain or snow, it means that you need industrial state of drones. Also, it means you need qualifications in the end that not only high qualified pilots will fly it, but also standard inspection guards. And this is then the thing which leads to automatic semi or full flights of drones, which is of course one of the high aspects of Lorenz again, that the drones will fly the same route like they should, and that you get each day the same pictures to combine from day to day, from month to month. So these problems and tasks have to be solved in the future. Then we can reach real integration, as we've seen already in the pictures. And I took one of the pictures from presentations of Lorenz with the letters, which you've seen. I think it is Port of Esbjerg, which is seen as a huge example to say, okay, if a drone flies and passes by, and not a person has to check all these pictures, but the technology behind the drone can find out there's something missing, there's something broken. This really helps to automate the process, as well as 24/7 hours and transfer into monitoring stations. Yeah, to come to the end of our be in time, we have some expectations. And my expectations is that not only drones, but cloud-based solutions, like we do have it with Lorenz, will empower the use of the drones, because, as I said, it must be possible that anybody flies out the drone who needs it for inspection, and not only qualified pilots. As a security company, we do see, by the use of these new technologies, a classification of companies into standard people service providers, and on the other hand, innovative security providers. So this will divide the companies. Yes, I will do it. Of course, we have already some EASA standard regulations for different use cases, and if we see security or safety providers, we need some other regulations to fly whenever we need, wherever we want, or wherever we needed to fly to solve our problems. And I expect in less than 5 years that we have full automated drones as a part of standard security solutions, sensor-based, in the area of security and safety. And yeah, thanks. I hope I could give you some inputs. We have the Q&A, and if you have later on further questions, do not hesitate to ask.
Thank you very much, Cornelius Toussaint from CONDOR Sicherheit, out of their headquarters, live from Germany, Essen. We have several questions, Cornelius, but I think for now we're on time and we are approaching the first break of today. So we'll leave questions for the Q&A sessions that will be coming up right after this break. We'll be back with Q&As at 10:15. Please let the questions roll in. You're able to ask questions to Lorenz, to the keynote speakers in the field right beneath the video stream. We've already seen the first questions coming in, and we'll approach them and address them as we do the Q&A. It's now 10 o'clock. I just need to do a final remark. We had a question from Mr. Peterson from the Naval Authorities, who is following the Launch Drone Summit 2020, who asked if there were any kind of recordings or documentation so they could investigate further into what they've seen today. And I'm happy to say that by permission of the speakers, we have tape, we have everything taped from today, so we'll be able to share this with you after the conference as well. So for now, we'll have a 15 minutes break, and we'll be back at 10:15 with a Q&A session. So all of you out there, you have the chance to grab a cup of coffee or even just have some water, and we look forward to see you again at 10:15. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020. I hope you had a pleasant break and had a cup of coffee and some water. We're happy to welcome you back here live at the studio in Odense, the center of the robotics and drone cluster in Denmark. We are ready for a 15 minutes Q&A session, so please, everyone out there at the computer screens, let them questions come. You're able to punch them in the chat field beneath the live feed that you receive on your computer. We already have the first questions coming in, and I'll try and pick some of the most relevant of them and address them to our guest. Just to sum up, I have here beside me in the studio Mr. Kim Voigt Munksgaard from Police of Fyns, and we have live from Germany, Essen, Mr. Cornelius Toussaint from CONDOR IMS, and on a link from Port Esbjerg, CCO Jesper Bank, representing the port today and trying to answer some of the questions coming in. And I think we'll simply move on in right away and look into some of the questions. The first question is a system question. I'll try and just deliver on that very quick and brief, because there's a question regarding the AI link and the IP rating, if there's done some kind of work on the drones as well. And I can say at the moment, no, the IP rating goes for the AI link. The drone is standard off the shelf as it is in terms of the M210 and the M300. There's a question coming in from Mr. Engsted asking, and that's pointed towards Port Esbjerg and Jesper Bank. Jesper, are there any special demands or quality demands that you see if you would like to implement underwater drones on the port? Have you done any considerations regarding quality? What should it deliver, and sustainability? How should it be able to act and perform during operations?
Well, there are at least two dimensions that will be important if we implement drones. The one will be quality of the material, the accuracy. We need 100% accuracy, and there's a problem here because we have a lot of sediment, a lot of dirty water, say, or not visible water. So it's difficult to get the quality in the monitoring. That's one issue that's important for us, and the other one is we want to have this done by every week. So there's a really physical challenge here because we have weather conditions and a lot of current in the water. So finding somehow an underwater drone or some other tools. Today it's done by a vessel, which obviously is quite steady in the water. But to replace this is a challenge, not for me, but for the one who are going to deliver the service to us.
Thank you very much, Jesper. Yes, because it seems quite obvious to include drones on water and drones underwater into the future or near future port services as well. We have until now primarily discussed the drones in the air. Of course, there could also be driving outdoor robots as something that could be implemented. Turning the question also to you, Kim, at the police force, are there any relevance in underwater drones for the police? Could that be relevant?
That could be. We haven't tried it out yet, but we have thoughts in that direction, and have been presented for this solution to implement on police tasks. I could imagine it could be in operational tasks as searching for people in a harbor or something like that. But yeah, only the imagination is the limit.
Yes, because in this case, underwater drones, maybe in connection also with flying drones, could help you get a quicker overview of the situation and maybe even lowering the risk for your staff.
Yes. In environmental issues, it could be useful too to pick up some samples from the water, biological or pollution of some kind. Yeah, it could be.
Just reaching out to you, Cornelius, because security companies, would underwater drones be relevant in your case, or is this primarily something that would be of interest to the port, obviously, but maybe also to the police force?
Well, to answer this question, yes, it could be of interest. We did already some tests with a underwater drone from Canada, and tested it for security of ships. And if you see the harbor security, it also means nobody knows what is under the line of the ship. Is there something which should not be there, either kind of explosives or transport underwater? And so if we see the full security level, then it will be something in future surely to work with. But of course, the problem is of quality looking underwater. And if you see, for example, in Port of Hamburg, the flowing of the Elbe is so fast that underwater drones have not the capability to really be used there.
Okay, but we hear a slight hint it could be interesting to look into the implementation of underwater drones on the Lorenz Hive. I know there are issues with navigation and stuff. It's not just standard GPS that you're able to work with. Moving on to the next questions coming in from Mr. Giovanni. Mr. Giovanni asks if there's any kind of issue flying non-Western drones, and we have seen and we've talked about the DJI M210 and the 300 series, and I'll turn it to you, Kim. What are your considerations when it comes to flying non-Western drones, in this case Chinese drones?
We meet often those precautions, asking from people that asks us, why do you dare using Chinese drones? We often and mostly use drones in tasks where it is not that useful for others to see and to detect what we do. We do things in public, and we are aware that some might be looking into the drones while we are flying, could be, and we are taking our precautions towards that.
So you choose, actually, you basically choose the drone according to the mission and the level of secrecy. So if it's not very secret, you fly the drones available.
Yeah. Standalone.
Yes. How does this go for you, Mr. Toussaint? You have the same kind of thoughts or considerations, or is there no consideration? It makes no difference. How is it seen from your perspective?
Well, of course, we do have always the questions for our clients as well. And so we have both, of course, in our portfolio. As I showed, we do have DJI drones, where if you make a joke, you say, okay, you don't need to save the pictures. You can ask for them in China. But on the other side, we also have drones. So we say for special clients like special security or military or others, we have distinguished encryption, and some of them even do not want to have any transfer via the official network. So we can take all of them, and I'm not the master expert in cybersecurity, but as long as the military bases say, okay, DJI drones will not be sure, or other drones, even not only from China, but also from other countries, will not be 100% safe, then we try to give different solutions for our clients.
Yes, thank you very much, Cornelius. Thank you. A question coming in from Mr. Yves Zut. I think one of our guests noticed one of the slides from you, Cornelius, regarding the 24/7 patrol. Now, as we have seen it from here, the primarily business case is within flying the drone and moving it around, making it as flexible as possible so that you can send in the drone on different missions. But we know that there are also people looking into systems where the drone lives on the perimeter. Do you already now consider, or do you have systems that could be used for 24/7 patrolling with drones, Cornelius?
Yes, the picture which I've shown is a drone which we have actually on our site in Essen, just for installation and testing. It's a system, no secret. It's an American system, Nightingale Security. They use it there really in productive. So it's not a test thing, or it's not a prototype. They're running, I think, 2 or 3 dozens of systems already in the US, and we just transferred the first system to our site. We will install it on our side. We did have already the first flights, and try to do it more and more automatically, even flying above a train line, which is just beside us. But step by step in works with our agencies and our governmental authorities, so that we can do it in future automatic. And I see this is really one of the pitches for the next years to another level of security. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cornelius. Thank you. A question regarding, you could say, the drone equipment, the stability and durability of the hardware. Jesper Bank, Port Esbjerg, what are your experiences with the drones on the port in terms of being able to fly in what we know from Port Esbjerg could be at sometimes harsh weather conditions?
Well, we had one precondition for introducing drones at the port. That was that the technology were able to be used in at least 95% of our weather conditions. So we put forward our data on weather conditions, rainwater, fog, wind, and that was, if it should be doable, that was our demand. But having said that, we are not very much focused on the drone itself. This is not our business, because the technology is moving so fast that we don't have the capability to follow this market. So we leave this to some of our sub-suppliers to identify the drones that can use our weather data.
Thank you very much, Jesper. Yes, of course, with weather conditions, I've seen statistics saying between 150 and to 200 days a year with wind and rain. You put the equipment and you stress it. Kim, we know from the police force in other cases that some of your people, they're quite rough with the equipment there. What are your experience? What are your demands for the drone hardware?
Yeah, that's right, Søren. We have realized more than twice that our staff is handling the drones, especially during the transportation from one point to another, that the landing legs has broken more than twice. So that that demands gear made for unprofessional use. Antenna, wires. It not just had to work and work properly, but it has to seems like it's solid and will hold for this treatment. In the air, we are very dependent on reliable drones and the security of the drone. We cannot. It may not fall out of the sky and hit some persons on the ground. That would be fatal to our tasks and our use of drones. So we need drones with a high security and strong equipment.
Yeah. So I know we cannot compare drones to weapons, but what you're basically saying is it needs to be stable and reliable. So already at the point of where you take the drone and have the thought of bringing it into action, you need to be dead sure that this equipment will serve you during the whole entire operation without failure. I'll stop and end the Q&A session for now because time is moving fast towards 10:30, where we'll have the next agenda point. So from here, I'll just say thank you very much to Kim Voigt Munksgaard from Police of Fyns with me live in the studio here. Thank you very much, Cornelius Toussaint, live from Essen, Germany, from CONDOR IMS. And thank you, Jesper Bank, CCO Port Esbjerg. I hope you'll follow the conference from here on. You're very welcome. But for now, we end the Q&A session, and I'll be moving on to the next part of the agenda. So now we're coming up with the product launches from Lorenz Technology, and we have prepared them very well. With me in the studio right now, I have CCO Anders Olsen, who has been, you could say, not to say too much, but part of the Danish drone industry since the early days. As I see it, Anders is one of the great colleagues, and he is kind of the go-to guy when you need to tie the knot between the technical specifications and the whole legal reality out there in the market. So what is the drone actually able to do, and what is it also allowed to do? And as the first product introduction today, or product presentation, we have prepared for the introduction of integration of the DJI M300. And Anders, happy to have you here. I'll leave you on stage and probably be back when you have approximately 2 minutes. But for now, I'll leave the stage to you and take it from here.
Thank you very much, Søren. So I have the honors of presenting the AI Link integration of the M300 from DJI, also known as the Matrice 300. So this is a drone that we are really proud to have integrated to, because some of the demands that you can hear from our guests in the Q&A session and even our clients online is kind of being covered by this drone. So actually, we have the AI Link, as Kristian Skaarup mentioned earlier, has the IP rating of 55. So now we finally have a matching drone, a drone companion with a similar IP rating, and that kind of makes it a reality for both police and security and even harbors to have this drone in operation, because it's not always that police, for instance, can choose on which kind of conditions they have to operate in. They often have to go out in a short notice and operate in harsh conditions. So this is kind of like the perfect match for an enterprise solution that can be utilized in police security and at ports. And the AI Link capabilities that some of you might know and some of you might not, but the edge computing capabilities in the AI Link is definitely set up to harness the capabilities of the M300 drone. So the M300 drone is the first drone from DJI that has 6 directional sensing. And this is basically sensors all around the drone. cameras and infrared sensors that can actually help the drone navigate. And this DJI just does a formidable job by itself in the flight controller, but the additional computing power by the AI link actually leverage these form of complex missions, because the AI link can utilize these kind of sensors and make sure that the operation, whether it be a police operation or operation on the harbor, is performed in a more safe manner and with more overview from the pilot, or even from the remote pilots or the participants viewing from remote via the Hive. Furthermore, the payloads supported by the M300 is also a very interesting series of payloads. Some of them adding new capabilities as laser range finders. Of course, we have the XT2 for now with the dual capability, so it's both EO camera and a thermal camera. This is a camera that we know that is very, very appreciated both by police and security, because you have the dual capabilities on the sensor. But actually the H20 camera, or the H20 series that DJI launched together with the M300, has even more capabilities and even more sensors. As mentioned, for instance, the laser range finder, where you can actually pinpoint the exact location of what the camera is viewing. And to add upon all these great new payloads, DJI actually launched 2 new payloads last week, and we are looking very much forward indeed to having a look at those payloads as well, because they are very interesting. So it's nice to see that DJI is putting a companion, or the perfect companion for the AI link on the market, and we are very excited to actually say that we have integrated to it. And when I say integrated, we usually, as Kristian mentioned, we have the M210 integrated. We're actually very proud of the integration. It was simple to mount it. We had a mounting guide. But in this case, with the M300, it's actually just plug and play. It's a matter of 4 screws and 1 connector, and then you're basically ready to fly. And that's, I mean, another point where we can see that the technology is moving in the right direction, that both DJI, but also, of course, the Lorenz team make huge effort to make this as a professional solution as possible. And the design that we have made, of course, respects all of the design features of the DJI. So that be the safety of the lighting. We don't obscure any of the sensors. And we make sure that the drone's capability of computing also gets a lot of air from the intake. Putting the old, or well, let's say the 1-year-old integration of the M210 versus the M300, how can we put that into number? So a lot of the capabilities of the AI link is getting the data away from the drone and getting the knowledge from the operator onto the drone. That be the operator remote or actually on-site. So all of these capabilities that you know from the AI link, the 4G data streaming to the cloud, and all of the smart and autonomous flights that we can perform with the AI link, these actually go a long way for making a very nice operational situation for a drone operator as myself. And as Søren mentioned, I have been for a lot of years. So that's actually one of the things, but one of the things for, let's say, a more rookie operator is kind of like underestimating the workload of actually not being in the air. Most people focus on when the drone is in the air, but as an experienced operator, I actually know that a lot of the time the drone is going to be on the ground. And this actually means that without the AI link, you might have under 50% of time in the air. So the AI link on the M210 integration, we do this as a test, a 450 minutes test, that's a whole workday. We have actually reached a number of 67% in air. And this is based that, we don't have to take out the SD card and take the data, put it into the computer and share it with a person that actually needs that data. This is all done autonomously by the AI link. So we were hugely proud by the 67% of in-air time with the Matrice 210. And we had high expectations of the M300, and one of the features of the M300 I didn't highlight just before is the hot swap. And the hot swap is really what's doing the difference in this case, because the hot swap actually makes the drone online all of the time. And since the AI link is receiving power from the drone, it means that the AI link is online all of the time. So we have high expectation, as I said, for in-air time with the M300, but let me just be honest and say we were blown away, because the actual in-air time for our side-by-side comparison in the 450-minute test, that's an entire workday here in Denmark, that's 7.5 hours. So, and the M300 mustered a very impressive 94% of in-air time. And this is mostly due to the fact that you can actually hot swap the batteries. This means that I can pick out one battery and actually take a fresh one, put in, and swap the other battery without even rebooting the drone. And this is what really makes those numbers skyrocket, as you see on the survey. And then I guess some of you will probably want to know, well, when is it available? And the good news is that it's actually this configuration on the table is available now. So this is the M300 with the XT2 integration. And as said before, the XT2 is a very sought after camera for the security and police, at least, and also for rough conditions as a port. So I think the integration as it is for now is in that state with the XT2 camera. Of course, we'll be working our hardest on getting all the nice features of the Zenmuse H20 series and the H20T to become available as soon as possible. For now, it's scheduled for December. And we will, of course, also make sure whenever the new payloads announced last week by DJI, when they arrive at the office, we'll make sure of integrating those as fast as possible. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anders. Thank you for a very interesting presentation, and it's nice also to have some of the hardware in the studio today. We are speaking of both hardware units as drones and the AI link, and also the software part, the Lorenz Hive, the cloud platform that makes you able to kind of control the drone and gather the data and share the data with all relevant people. Anders, I was wondering, when we're looking at the M300 on the table here with the mounted AI link, do you think that maybe the M300 with AI link could be yet another step towards implementing drones in enterprise solutions with what you could call higher safety than what we experienced earlier?
Yeah, definitely. We also heard Munksgaard from the police of Fyns. One of the risks of operating drones is definitely having them fall out of the sky. And one of the features I didn't highlight on the M300 is actually that DJI managed to do a redundancy on that they can actually crash land it, a soft crash landing with 3 propellers due to advanced algorithm controlling the motors. So that being, even though it's a quadcopter with 4 motors that usually fall out of the sky with the failure of 1 motor, DJI actually accomplished making it more safe with 3 propellers. And In addition to that, of course, we have all the sensors, as I mentioned before, that the AI link can also take or utilize to perform more safe operations. So I see definitely, as well as the ingress protection level of the drone, because you can, as an operator, encounter harsh condition. Even though you take off in nice conditions, you can actually encounter harsh conditions while in air, especially if you think about the flight time of the platform, which is up to 50 minutes. So those harsh conditions can be brushed off by the IP rating, and that again adds up to the safety of the operations of the drone. So definitely.
Anders, COO Lorenz Technology, thank you very much for a very interesting keynote on the integration of the M300 into the system. I'll take over from here just briefly and introduce the next product presentation. So thank you very much for now, Anders.
Thank you, Søren, and thank you for everyone out there listening. It's good to have attention. I'll just grab this guy with me.
Thank you, Anders. So while just preparing for the next product presentation, I welcome on stage Nicole Christiansen. Please join me, Nicole. I have made this perfectly ready and safe for the next part of the presentation. Nicole is our Senior Innovation Manager, and this means that Nicole is, in daily work, responsible for all our development projects in the company. And Nicole today will present and introduce you to what's carrying the overall title, Assisted Flight, Assisted Mapping, and not much more to say for now, Nicole, than the stage is yours, and I'll probably be back when there's about 2 minutes left of the keynote. Thank you.
Thank you. So, hello, my name is Nicole, and I'm here to present 2 new features. These features has been developed together with our users, who has contributed with a lot of insights and feature requests. So, the first feature I want to present is Assisted Flights. Assisted Flights is one of the new features that is available already now. So we are normally known for our autonomous flights, where we have these predefined missions, where you can start a mission with a click of a button and be able to collect identical data each time. This identical data you use to analyze and compare what have happened since last time. But we have gotten multiple requests of developing a solution where you can you don't need to have these predefined routes, and the most important, you need to have a drone in the air instantly. With assisted flights, you are able to have it in the air within a few minutes. This means that the pilot just needs to take off the drone, and the AI link and the Lorenz Hive automatically starts a mission. And this also means that we also automatically start a live stream. So this results in that you don't need to start manually a broadcasting feed. You do not need to put in a cable in your controller to secure that you have sub-second latency. All this happens automatically. While you're flying, you're able to choose between if you want to only stream or you want to stream and save the stream. And this happens by we automatically upload the video in Lorenz Hive. We also want to increase safety while you're flying, because it's not a secret that most accidents happen by human errors. By having the AI link, we're actually able to create a geofence. So if you're flying in a sensitive area where you're not allowed to fly over the area next to you, you can make a geofence, and even though you're flying manually, you're not able to fly over on the other side. Since you're able to real-time stream, you can share the stream between your colleagues, the police, different agencies, and also if you are at an area who has an owner, you can stream it directly to the owner so you can get in more knowledge. By doing this, we can deliver a better service, full documentation, and increase safety, and all this happen in one solution. But your mission doesn't stop here. Since everything is uploaded to the Hive, you're able to look in the archive and see your missions again. Here's an example where you're able to use our incident management tool. This means that you can go in the video, write that something has happened, note it as an alarm, note or observation, write a comment, and save it. When you have done this in the whole video, you can generate a report and share the PDF to all your colleagues who need to know this. Here, you will have full documentation, you have comments of what have happened, and this can be used for later on. The next I want to present is assisted road mapping. And the feature which is mostly used at Lorenz is area mapping. So you know this, where you want to map a new area to have an updated map. However, some of our clients have said it's a bit hard to do this because you sometimes go to an area where there is no map. It could be a new construction site, there can be new roads. So it's actually impossible to make a route for the drone where it has to fly. This is normally done, which you can see on the screen, by you make a polygon over the desired area you want to have mapped. And this you can actually not do if you want to map roads or shapes in odd shapes. So what you can do with assisted flight is you just start a mission. The pilot will get assisted by the AI link, which will control the height and the speed. And the only thing the pilot needs to do is just move which way the drone has to fly so it can follow the road. This is really easy because when you want to map an area like you can see on the screen, normally you have to collect a lot of unnecessary data because you have all these large areas which will be included in your map. But if you only want to map the roads, you can do it with assisted road mapping. This actually results in this image where you now can see we have only mapped all the roads. You limit the amount of unnecessary data, and also you don't need to get the pictures of everybody's houses and gardens. So this is one of the big advantages by this. However, your drone mission doesn't stop here. When you have collected all this data, you can use our measurement tools where you, for example, can see what is the length. You can also measure how big of a square meter it is. You can also just manually inspect the images and, of course, write down what kind of comments you want. All this can again be generated into a report which you can share. So now you're probably thinking, when is all this available? And what we can say is available already now. So yeah, I hope you will enjoy these two new features.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you for an, once again, interesting keynote on these interesting features. And as I see it right now, things that are presented, we saw the M300, now we saw these specific features. It's all about the relevance and the ease of use out there in the market for the guys or girls who will have to implement this technology. It needs to be easy to use because it's actually quite a high, complex product. Just one question before. I know that 5G is on everybody's lips right now, and I've seen some questions in the feed regarding 5G. What are your expectations to the new and hopefully powerful 5G network when it comes to this kind of technology?
Yeah, so it's no secret that we in the innovation department are already now testing the capabilities with 5G. And I seriously think that 5G in the future will be a game changer. So I think that one of the big issues is that clients want more high quality data. High quality data result in very big data files. Normally when you make a map, it's not unusual to have 300 images, and then soon you have many gigabytes of data, which you need transferred to the cloud, and this will take a long time. With 5G, you will be able to upload gigabytes within no time. So here we will be able to increase the data quality and amount and have no waiting time on getting on the map.
Oh, okay. Interesting, because I know this is of interest for many of our viewers today. And Well, this is the advantage of being live. I can ask all the questions I actually like to ask. And Nicole, just a final one. I know that you're in as one of the partners with Lorenz Technology on the first responder emergency drone project, the FRED project. Now we discussed 5G. Of course, that is also an important part of first response. The technology we have showcased today. Do you see anything relevant also in the first responder situation?
Definitely. What we want to, the result in the first responder project is trying to eliminate having one drone, one pilot, one site. But having, if we want to develop a solution where you can remote control drones, and this will be possible with the 5G due to the low latency, and we already control drones online with the AI link. So the only difference that will be is that we're taking out the pilot and letting somebody externally doing the missions. And here we can say you can have somebody do the missions like mapping or search and rescue or security, just do it externally. It will be a lot cheaper as well.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you. This was Nicole Christiansen, our Senior Innovation Manager at Lorenz Technology, giving you impressions on the advantages and the gains from assisted flight and assisted mission flying, and, well, a couple of extras here in the end. So thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you for being part of today's show. It was so nice having you on stage.
You're welcome.
So for the next product launch, I welcome back our CEO, Mr. Kristian Skaarup. Please, Kristian, come and join me on stage. I'll once again make sure that things are done properly and according to guidelines due to the situation with virus that we're part of right now. But no more talking about virus. We go back into the product launch part. And Kristian, you have agreed to try and give us impressions from the whole AI development, and in this case, the relevant AI development in terms of the port segment. We had Jesper Bank from Port Esbjerg online and in the Q&A session, and as I understand, it's also it's connected to Port Esbjerg and the work there, that the early steps toward AI implementation is being done. But for now, Kristian, I'll leave the stage to you, and I'll be back, as I've said earlier, probably when there's around 2 minutes left of your keynote.
Okay, thank
Take
you.
the stage.
Thank you, Søren. Yeah, and good to see that a lot of you are back already and following the whole setup here. Yeah, I now have the opportunity to speak about something that is new and something that is coming up. I hope that you all noticed that the previous 2 product launches, they were all about things that are available right now, meaning the M300 is integrated with the AI link. It's available right now. The assisted flight, the assisted mapping, they are both available right now. I have the pleasure of talking about the Port AI. It's a bit of a tricky thing to talk about, because AI is used in a lot of different scenarios right now, and we see a lot of videos where AI is introduced, where AI is going through videos, detecting stuff. But what I actually want to be presenting today is AI that we use at the edge, meaning that it is AI used on the AI link. So it is actually real-time AI that is ongoing on board the drone. And that is something completely new, because it's not a post-processing, it's a live processing of the data. But to make sure that that we get into this subject in the right way, I need to take you back a bit, because I need to take you back and explain you what are we actually doing today at the port in production. As Jesper Bank mentioned earlier, in production every week. So we'll go back a bit. This is a short presentation of what we are doing today. This is called quay inspection. Jesper Bank also mentioned it earlier as quayside inspection. This is something that we have been doing for quite some time. It's done autonomously. It's done based on route planning, meaning that the drone flies a pre-planned route. And as Jesper mentioned, it might be that sometimes there's a ship. It might be that you won't get all the images every time, but then we just repeat and repeat over and over again. And we collect the videos. We show the videos to the employees that needs to run through them. And as you see in this example, if we find a fender that is broken, if we find a safety ladder that is actually missing, you're able in the workflow within the Lorenz Hive to mark that as an incident and to pass it on to the person that needs to go out and fix the incident. So the drone is flying. You can do incident marking. You can do reports that will tell you where the picture is taken, what's wrong on the picture, and you can archive that. And this is a whole process that is going on week by week, but it actually has a purpose. I'll come back to that purpose now. Because if you also listened to Jesper Bank earlier, he was explaining, yeah, we are actually looking at tasks that can be done manually, meaning that previously when you needed to do quayside inspections, you put, like it's shown up here, people in a boat sailing out, looking at the quayside. So the people needed to leave the office. They needed to go to where the boat was located. They needed to start out the boat. They needed to be 3 men in a boat for the security, meaning that you had one person to sail the boat, one person to make sure that he could rescue the others, and one to do the documentation. Instead of doing so, we introduced, why not doing this with a drone? And as Jesper, he mentioned earlier, actually we were looking at something that could take up to a day or days that could actually now be done in minutes or 20 minutes. Because what they were looking for is actually what's on the video right now. They were looking for fenders, self-made fenders that were blocking the safety ladders. They were looking for people leaving stuff, as an example here, rope hanging into the water where a nuke could enter the port, they could damage their propellers, and they could damage their boats and the harbor front. Or they were looking for safety ladders that were actually broken due to a ship hitting the safety ladder. So that was what the people were looking for. They can now see it in a video. It means that we have gone from a manual workflow onto a digital workflow. But the demands from the harbor didn't stop there. They wanted to go even further. They wanted an AI solution put on top of this. I'm now showing you a video where we actually locate all the pullets and all the safety ladders on a quayside inspection. This is of course done by post-processing, meaning that the data is in the archive, we can post-process them and we can show them to the user at the harbor office. But what would be actually more interesting is that this is actually quite, as Nicole also explained, this is actually quite a large file, because if you want all this video to come to you in 4K with 30 frames a second, you'll get enormous amounts of data that you need to transfer from the drone to the cloud. Of course, it's easy with the launch system because we use the AI link, the 4G connectivity to transport the data. But still, it's a huge amount of data because you want to be able to watch the live streams. You want to be able to see what is going on at the same time. So what we are introducing now is AI on the edge. It means that it's artificial intelligence going on board the drone. I have an example here. The drone is flying autonomously. doing a repetitive task. It is locating, while flying, both safety ladders and fenders. And because we can do it on board, we can do the analysis on the high resolution images without having to send anything to the backend. But this is where the AI comes into play. Because every time we have a safety ladder, we can actually now, with the AI, make sure that the drone takes a high resolution image and sends it automatically to the backend system. So it sends it directly to the cloud. So we can automate the inspection, and we can collect the visual data that the port employees need to go through to make sure that the security, the safety is in place. And how does it actually look then if you only collect one image? Yeah, the drone will fly, it will pass the safety ladders, and it will take one image. This one image will be a full resolution. Let's make an example with a 4K image. It means that you will actually now be able to zoom into this one picture, see what is actually on this safety ladder. As we can see here, it's rope. Rope is not allowed to be on the safety ladders because then you cannot get onshore if you fall into the water. But if we zoom even further in, we can see even how the rope is attached, if there's any other damage to the quayside. And I think this is one of the things where we are really pushing the technology, because this can of course be done in demonstration video, but this we are now starting to introduce live, meaning live like going into production at a port. We are doing the first tests now. We are starting the testing process on live productions later this year, and we expect this to be in a more general state so that we can have a more general tool that can start looking at not only safety ladders but also other objects when going into Q1 next year. So this is actually not available now, but we are testing it now. But this is something that is pointing into the future, and we expect it to be live around Q1 next year. And as I say, generally available, there will be multiple things that we need to do in order to make this work, because it's not only what is going on the edge, it's also, as Jesper explained, it's very important that the back-end system is actually able to display, is actually able to display in an easy way for the user the data, so that the user can help also us out on looking at the data and seeing what data is okay and what data is not okay. So that will be one of the key features for the next developments we'll do, will be on the backend system, where we will work on implementing AI functionality so that it's also useful for the user to look at the data. Yeah. So this was a short presentation of Port AI, or what we also call intelligent data collection.
Thank you very much, Kristian. This was Kristian Skaarup, CEO of Lorenz Technology, taking us through Port AI and what is new there and what will be available in a very brief time. Kristian, looking at Port AI, yeah, I need to say we have some time now before we're coming up towards the break at 11:15. So I think we have the chance just to elaborate a bit on the AI and the thoughts on AI. When it comes to AI and ports like Port Esbjerg, will it be able simply to plug and play the AI solution from, for instance, Port Esbjerg into Port of Rotterdam or some other port? Will that be possible?
Of course, some of the stuff that we are doing right now is to make it generic in a way where we can actually make sure that even though you're on Port of Esbjerg and you might need one, or you might use one producer of safety ladders, You could also go to another port that uses another producer, and you can actually train based on their safety ladders so that we can detect them also. They might be different in construction or something else, but that's also for time to show. But the whole idea is that, yeah, if we can do it one place, why not utilize the same trained networks in other places, in other countries, at other ports? But still, you are saying that I cannot go to you and say I would like to buy AI for the sum of $150,000. No, I think one of the important slides that we had here is that when you want to implement AI, you need to go through a process. You simply need to look at your today workflow that is normally manual. You need to go to a digital workflow, and you need to pinpoint what the AI actually needs to do. What does it need to detect? And that is not something that you cannot at the moment buy it off the shelf. It needs to be trained on your data. But saying that, we're also very, very close now because unfortunately they took the AI link, but the AI link is the first thing that we actually need to be able to do it. We need edge computing. We need compute power on board to make sure that we can actually detect the right things and deliver them to the backend in the right resolution so that we can make sure that you can actually inspect them properly. So you're once again underlining the demand for the quality in the data that the drone gathers due to the fact that it's not in itself the valuable thing, the drone, the hardware, the driving robot, the submersible robot. It's the data that they gather and send into some kind of, could be the cloud platform where you're able to work with it. This gives perfectly sense. So just to sum it up, if you're interested in AI and you would like to implement AI, very briefly, what are the basic features you need to be aware of? Where do you start if you want to implement AI solutions? Yeah, first of all, I think we need to look at the example from Port Esbjerg. What they have actually been very successful doing is acknowledging that they actually need this and then actually putting it into production, meaning that we need to start gather data. We need to start training on the data, and we need to do it with a high frequency, because if we only do it one time, we've put it into some kind of pre-trained program that can highlight stuff. That's not real life. We need to go every day, all kind of weather, collect the data, analyze the data in all kinds of weather also, and get the right results. So implementation is key here. So it's more than just a solution delivery. It actually takes or places a demand for kind of partnership between the parts who are in on the project, the parts who need to benefit from the AI solution, and the part who needs to develop the whole software, hardware thing that will in the end lead to AI implementation. Yeah, and when you get to that point, you won't care whether it's a drone or something else, because you'll have the whole workflow automated. You'll simply just get the data you need, and that's of course the dream of all of us, that you just get the data you need. You only get the safety ladders that are broken. You don't get the ones that are okay. But still, you need to think about the demands for documentation, that even though your safety ladder is okay, you want to know at what date, at what time it was actually okay, so that you can go back in time, see through your documentation, when did it break, what went wrong, was there a specific ship there at some point, all that stuff. So documentation is key, and of course also we only want to go through the data that is relevant. Okay, yeah, I get the point that, and I could ask you, do you keep track of the amount of hours you spend on Port during this process? No, of course we spend quite a lot of time there to make sure that we gather the right data, because even though it's AI and it's something going on a computer, there's still a lot of physical demands that you need to take into consideration. The port is a very vibrant and live environment where stuff moves around, cranes come in, trucks come in, ships come in, oil rigs, and a lot of stuff is changing all the time. So you need to know when you're operating at ports, the environment, and you need to take into consideration how do we find technology that can actually be applied under these conditions.
Thank you very much, Kristian, for once again, interesting keynote, opening and revealing some of the potential coming from the implementation of AI solutions, including drone, cloud technology, and also a specific use case from Port Esbjerg. Nice to be able to tie them up once again with the keynote from Mr. Jesper Bank from Port Esbjerg, and now the findings on AI and what will be available in very near future. And as Jesper Bank also mentioned, they are very willing to share their knowledge and insights with other actors in the same field of business, other ports, and I think that's a really, really important part that describes actually this kind of business, that they aim on a larger scale level to emerge and to implement new technology in order to provide for better results on the ports. So for now, Kristian, thank you very much. Thank you for the keynote. Thank you.
Welcome.
And right now we are closing in on a break, but I can see we have a few seconds left before we hit 11:15, where we had planned for a short break. I'll just pick up one of the questions that came in. It was in regards to the police force, but it's more generic and could be of interest to a larger scale of the audience. We had a question coming in that related to if police forces or security companies plan to do regular flights over hotspots where you could have repeatedly risk for high crime rates, and in this case, what would be the response from the population in the area? And I had a brief talk with Kim Munksgaard before he left the studio, and what we know, and we know that from research in Denmark and also in Belgium, is that it is of high importance that people in an area with regular drone flights, that they know exactly who are the people operating the drones. They need the visibility in order to accept the drone. So related to police or security, this means basically that you need to be able to decode who is the pilot, who is the organization behind the flight that is being performed at the moment, calling for something very simple like recognizable suits from the officers out on patrol operating the drone. And this in itself will actually provide for a higher degree of acceptance from the local inhabitants when the drone is up there. This was the remark from Kim Voigt Munksgaard before he left the police, Kim from the Fyns Police. We're at 11:15 and we're in for a break, so you're able to go out, grab a cup of coffee, get some water, but please make sure that you're back after the break at 11:30, because we'll be here with some very relevant insights. Now, we'll try to look into the future from the perspective of, first of all, the largest platform producer, DJI, will be represented here on a live feed from an external studio, Mr. Kristian Skaarup. I'll introduce him to you when we get to that at 11:30. And after Kristian Skaarup from DJI, we'll have Associated Professor Kjeld Jensen from University of Southern Denmark, looking into the perspectives and the way towards beaverless beyond visual line of sight flights and more complex flying within given legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, for now, I thank you. We have a break of approximately 14 minutes now. Make sure that you're back at 11:30 for the last part of the Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020. Thank you. Welcome back to Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020, brought to you from studio here in Odense, Denmark, live. the next half hour is dedicated to what we have described or called a look at the future. And the first part of it will be from the more commercial point of view, the commercial side. And I'm very, very pleased and happy and proud to be able to introduce from DJI, Mr. Kristian Skaarup, the Director of Public Policy in DJI. Representing the world's largest platform producer, Kristian Skaarup is the living drone tech and information hub, you could say. And last year I noticed Mr. Skaarup as the go-to person when BBC News needed comments on one of their programs regarding safety, drones and safety in the areas of airports in the UK and other discussions related to this issue. We have on a live link from Copenhagen, Mr. Kristian Skaarup from DJI, here on the Lorenz Drone Summit today. And hopefully, Kristian, you're able to hear and see me out there with audio and visual.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully you've got a clear image of me as well.
Thank you. I've got clear audio and clear visual. Kristian, thank you very much for participating and making Lorenz Drone Summit 2020 even more exciting. We are thrilled that we're able to have you on board and live here at the studio. Though it's on an online link, let's make sure next year we'll be live in front of each other. But Kristian, I won't take up any more of your time. You have the next quarter to introduce some of the things that could be taking drones into the next level of implementation. But you can also say there might be ups and downs related to this. And I know you would like also to look in on use-based technology, this technology that should be the foundation for taking drones into also a more autonomous level, and also to include in the future the beyond visual line of sight flying. But from here, from the studio here, Kristian, I hand over to you, and I'll get back to you when you have approximately 2 minutes left of your keynote.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Søren. Thank you for the kind introduction, and not least, congratulations to the whole Lorenz crew for the event this morning and the announcement. And finally, thank you for the presentation, or for the invitation to present here today. No doubt, Søren had a lot of praises for me and what I'm going to say. It's a challenge following up on product announcement and technology speak when the focus of my presentation is going to be more on the regulatory side. I'll take a stab at it anyway. The focus will be on the future of regulation. As Søren said, its use space will also allow us to give us a chance of a look at where use space debate is today around Europe and what we'll have coming in the next couple of years, and also combine that with some questions and pros and cons of where use space is coming. Nevertheless, you can say it's always good to have a look at what DJI is, and spare with me. I'll save you for the full corporate story of DJI or our products, and I won't turn it into a sales pitch. Because I trust most of you are actually familiar enough with our products, otherwise you probably wouldn't be on a digital drone conference this morning. But to give you an idea about what we're about, obviously there is a recreational side of DJI drones that we've seen flourish over the past 10 years, but it's our enterprise products that are really interesting when we're talking about the commercial use of products. And as you see on the screen now, they span from what we see Lorenz talking a lot about this morning, from Anders and Nicole with the M300 series, to our existing flagship drones, the M200, and then we have the smaller and more specialized platforms with both the Mavic 2 Enterprise series that really is a product that's capable of deploying fast and anywhere. And we've got the P4 multispectral and the Agras product ranges for anyone wanting to use drones in agriculture. So as such, you can say DJI enterprise platforms, even though it's often a forgotten story about DJI, actually fulfills the full spectrum of at least, let's say, small drone use. It's obvious there's more to it when we talk about parcel delivery and air taxis and that kind of stuff, but that's not really our business. And then on top of that, we've got our whole software range, as you see on the bottom of this slide, which really allows users both to use DJI drones with our own software, but also to build their own applications through our SDK, which is really what allows you to get the most value out of drone use. So turning a bit away from the commercial part of this presentation, you can say, going to what is U-Space. The link between the product on the previous slides and U-Space is pretty clear from a DJI objective, because these are the DJI products that are likely to fit in a U-Space context. And for those of you who may not be too familiar with what U-Space is the concept that's being used to describe how drones in the future will integrate with manned aviation, will have an easier access to airspace, and in general is seen as the big facilitator for BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight operations, and any type of automation that is difficult to allow under existing regulations in just about any part of the world. So I've got on this slide, on the left hand, you can say it's a bit of a funny coincidence, because that's actually not U-Space. That's the American UTM. This is where this whole project started. UTM has been a project with NASA since 2012. When Europe got its eyes on U-Space, one of the things to happen was a European commissioner saying we cannot call it UTM because that's an American acronym, so we need a European acronym. Hence, we call it U-Space. But at the end of the day, it's actually the same thing. In Europe, essentially, we've been discussing U-Space since 2017 and how we will enable all these advanced drone practices since 2017. But it's only in the spring of 2020, so after 3 years, that we saw the first draft regulation from EASA, which is the front page you see here on the right. And since then, you can say the discussions have really been heated about how is U-Space going to look like, who's going to play a role in U-Space, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously there's a technology component to U-Space, all the things you see on the left part of this slide, but that all needs to fit in a regulated context, because that's how aviation works, and it's not the Wild West. So obviously we need some sort of frame that we can fill this picture in. And then we'll move on and say, where is U-Space actually now in the discussion? As I say, it's been discussed heavily since this spring. And it's no understatement to say there's huge disagreement and debate among stakeholders on some of the foundational principles of U-Space. And there is something in U-Space called the Central Information Service, which you can say is kind of the hub it's the nexus in a hub and spoke model where information is disseminated between the different actors in a U-Space context. One of the discussion on this is, do we need one central information service provider, or do we need several? Should this be a competitive business, or should this really be left to one company? In the latest draft we've seen from the EU Commission, which was actually just published last week, it's changed from being one to being several. So you will probably no longer have to rely on just one state authority or one company providing this CIS service in a given U-Space, but you will have several entities capable of delivering that same service. Then there is the question, a very big question, very foundational question, where is U-Space? What are the requirements for designating any type of airspace as U-Space? And we've seen already in Denmark a first designation of U-Space around the island of Fyns and Odense. But you can say, putting it up on a more principal level, the question becomes, what does it actually take to make an airspace U-Space? The offset has been that it's sensitive airspace. It's airspace where there is a certain risk level. And as such, EASA proposed that there would be a risk assessment of any type of airspace needed, and you could impose U-Space where there was a risk level high enough to justify it. And that upset some states, because should U-Space really only be based on safety, or should there be security, privacy, environment concerns involved as well? So in this latest draft, it's not about safety, it's about all the other things. And there is really free hands for member states in Europe to designate use space wherever they want to. So where's use space going to fit in the future? We expect the regulation to be out first half of 2021, so in about 6 months for now. And then obviously it will apply 18 to 24 months later. So until we have a full European use space, we're probably 2 to 3 years away still at the earliest. And just final information for those who are interested, EASA just formed an expert group that will deliver the applicable means of compliance and guidance material, and it will start its work next month. And the link at the bottom here, which you will probably have access to when the slides are shared, will give you access to the, let's say, the state of the art of the discussion on use space. So the more interesting issue on all use space, because this is all the background, is where does DJI fit in a use space context? One of the questions we always get is, what's DJI's opinion on use space? Because obviously we benefit hugely from people being able to use drones today without having to connect to any type of traffic management system or something like that. And let me be very clear and say DJI is not against use space in any way. We are actually probably the biggest proponents of allowing all the advanced operations you'll see as a result of use space. Beyond visual line of sight, delivery, routine automation. It's actually one of the key points of DJI is that we need more automation. So we want to make sure that we do get you allowing all of these things. But we allow ourselves to be skeptical and pose some questions around some of the things that are not too frequently debated when we talk use space. So I listed some of them here. You can say, will it only be mobile networks that will allow drones to connect to use space, or will there be other technologies? You can say tradition in aviation is to make regulations what's called performance-based and not prescribe certain technologies. That's unclear at the moment. Who's going to provide the services use space is based on? Is it going to be the air traffic control companies of this world? In Denmark, that would be Naviair, in Germany, DFS. Or is it going to be a competitive market? Is it going to be phone companies? Because it's going to be partly based on phone links, at least. Or is it going to be small, innovative startups? Then the question I mentioned before, where is use space? Is it everywhere? Is it sensitive areas only? Who's going to decide that? Then obviously we've already seen the EU regulations being introduced this year and next year, which divides operations into open category, specific category, certified category. What about the open category, the low risk operations? Where do they fit in a use-based context? Again, no one's really capable of answering. And then finally, and the most important question, what's it going to cost and who's going to pay? And on that, we had a study performed by a German evaluation institute called the Institut für Politikevaluierung in Frankfurt. And you've got a link here where you can download those findings. And from my perspective, it's quite interesting because they essentially formed an economic model saying what is use space going to result in terms of cost. And I'll run it through it quickly because I'm running out of time. But the essence is, you see it on the right, over the first 10 years, use space is going to have a cost of 7.5 to 8.7 billion euros. And that is if you look at all the results of use space in terms of charges, you're going to see a lesser demand for drones, etc., etc. The big question is, who's going to pick up that bill? Because there is a common principle in aviation is user pays, but we don't even have clarity on that. And obviously there are some things, small adjustments in use space that could lower that bill that we are trying to advocate. And it's some of the things I mentioned already. It is clearer guidance on where is use space, potentially limitations on where is use space. It's the question on, do all drones heavier than 250 grams need to fit in a use space context, or could we push that limit up? And then finally, obviously, it is the question of some sort of cost regulation mechanism. It's a well-known principle in several industries that you regulate these costs. And I'll just finish off with the very last thing that you can say. The reason we care about this is because using drones in visual line of sight actually has a lot of positive uses already. One of the things we've been doing in DJI over the past couple of years is we've been collecting statistics on lives saved using drones. And yesterday we were at 493 globally. You can find this map on our website and further details on the different saves. But our big fear is that these very basic applications using drones in visual line of sight will disappear because they're going to be too expensive if we go all in on BVLOS and autonomy too fast. So I hope I give you some food for thought, and I'll turn back to Søren. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kristian Skaarup from DJI. Thank you for insights. Thank you for sharing data and investigation regarding the entire upcoming U-Space system. And of course, we also understand your skepticism, or at least your thoughts on how pricing could affect the smaller segments. For now, we have to move on, but Kristian, thank you very much for participating. Hope to see you soon out there, and let's make sure that we implement even more drone technology than we already have. We'll, for our part, do whatever it takes and do our utmost to make sure that this will happen in the future. Thank you very much, Kristian. Moving on to the next part of a look into the future, we are taking a new approach and taking the perspective from the research side. With me in the studio here in Odense, I have Mr. Kjeld Jensen. Kjeld Jensen is Associated Professor at the University of Southern Denmark, and Kjeld has a high insight of the full potential of drone technology and what it takes to get there in terms of making sure that we comply with legislation and, of course, also delivering something very essential, safety. Kjeld Jensen is also a central part of the highly promoted Health Drone Innovation Project that is ongoing right now, and as I seem to remember, will run until January 2022, as I recall. And for now, I don't think there's a need for further introduction. We'll step over to the research point of view on the more complex drone flights in the future, or even in the near future. Kjeld, please, I'll hand over the stage to you and get back to you when there's approximately 2 minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as you kindly introduced, I'm a researcher, and it means I like very big challenges, research challenges. And taking drones to fly BVLOS and perform other complex drone operations within the realm of EU legislation and ruling is definitely a complex challenge. I will try to go through some of the key prerequisites to actually flying BVLOS that we have worked with throughout our projects. I will briefly name them here. One is value creation, and I will come back to you why this is important. And I understand this has also been discussed earlier here today. Then there's obviously the legal framework, which I will briefly touch upon. I will touch upon the challenge of safe and reliable drones, which is actually a big challenge today to find drones that can fit within the EU regulation for flying BVLOS. And then the challenge of integration with manned aviation and how that pertains to U-Space and U-Space services. The projects that I draw this knowledge and experience from is the Health Drone project, as you presented, and also square meter farming, which is essentially about saving pesticides and fertilizer by having a much more clear information down to square meter level of fields when it's needed and how much it's needed. Then there's a usability project, which is about infrastructure for drone technology and research in Denmark. And then a future, or actually a today project called U-Space Fyns, which I will get back to. In order to be able to fly BVLOS and perform complex drone operations, we actually need to look into the feasibility of this. And that pertains directly to the commercial value creation. We need to have the industry, an industry that is willing to invest in this. And we also need to look into the societal value creation. We need to ensure that we have the public acceptance of what we do. And this is not a given factor. Drones will, to some extent, annoy people when they fly, at least here in the beginning, when we are testing. And the typical concerns we are meeting is essentially, is there a risk of this drone falling down and hitting me? I mean, there's a concern about safety. do the drone take pictures while they fly? For instance, our health drones do not carry a camera, but people don't know. So when they fly, the privacy is actually a concern to people. And also, how much noise will they create, and will they be visually annoying when they fly? I think these are all valid points for people to have. And we actually conducted recently a survey. It only has around about 140 respondents, but it actually shows a pretty clear picture. When drones are creating societal values, health drone, emergency drones, police drones, and so on, there's typically an 80 to 95% acceptance factor. Whereas currently, if you ask people if they wish to have their pizza delivered by a drone, this factor falls to around 50%. So that's definitely worth taking into consideration, because we will, with our drones, somehow disturb the rest of the society, and we need to do that in a way, together with the society, so that we all agree that we are heading in the right direction. Looking at the legal framework, I will do this very quickly. The EU regulation that comes into force by January next year separates drones into open, specific, and certified categories. Open is essentially what we know today. Certified is operations that are so dangerous that they are comparable to manned aviation, could for instance be passenger drones, and specific is everything that falls in between, and this is what I'm talking about now. When we want to do a BVLOS operation, it falls into the specific category, and we have to complete a specific operations risk assessment, also named the SORA among friends. And in that risk assessment, we define how risky this operation is by what's called a SAIL number. Goes from 1 to 6. 1, 2 is low risk, 2, 3, 4 is medium, and 5, 6 is high risk. And whenever we fly BVLOS, we have to be concerned about essentially the ground risk, the risk of the drone crashing into something on the ground. It could, at worst case, be a person or persons. And then the air risk, the risk of the drone colliding mid-air with other aircrafts. And essentially this SAIL level determines the requirements for the entire operation, depending on how high the ground risk and the air risk is. So when we operate within what we call an operational room, which is where we fly, and also where we fly if we have some kind of contingency. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, this is the operational area and the contingency area and the emergency area we're using for our current operations that take place on a weekly basis here in Odense. So it actually occupies quite some space, and we need to cut down this space in order to be able to have both drones and manned aviation in the airspace. A quick note on the drones themselves. We find that, as I said before, that many drones are not capable of complying with the rules in the SORA. And for the first part, it's actually that we don't know exactly what rules it needs to comply with, because we have essentially a lack of standardization. And some of the standards that are there are immature at this point, so they are not really clear to the point. In practice, the drones have, in general, problems with having single point of failures, which essentially means that I can point somewhere on the drone or the UAS as such with my finger and say, if this piece fails, then the drone will become out of control. And that is, of course, not acceptable to a BVLOS operation. So it's about communication, having redundant communication links. It's about positioning. That's actually a tricky one, because we all use GNSS unless we are talking about advanced research projects. But what about if the GNSS is jammed or even spoofed? Could 5G, with the positioning it can provide, could that be an alternative to GNSS so we can use both and get redundancy? And also, many drones are advertised as being redundant, but when it comes down to the flight controller with the software that are often updated, then what happens if that fails? I mean, it may be very reliable, but there has to be something to take over if it somehow crashes. We do a safe recovery, and the approach that we have is using parachutes on a drone with a completely independent system, so that if the drone itself fails, then there's an independent system with an independent battery and parachute and a motor stop function and so on. Moving on to the integration with manned aviation, which is kind of the next big challenge when we have a drone that is reliable enough and we have the legal framework in place. We have a challenge when we want to integrate with manned aviation, that at the low altitudes we actually have quite a few different stakeholders, and there's no one-size-fits-all here. They have there's probably going to be different solutions for different types of manned aviation. Just to name a quick, we have emergency and medical helicopters, we have fighter jets, we have gliders, hang gliders, and hot air balloons, and so on. And when drones fly beyond visual line of sight autonomously, we need to have mechanisms in place to ensure that we don't get a mid-air collision. There's a lot of research going on, putting sensors on the drone, visual sensors, radar sensors, LiDAR sensors, but I have yet to see a reliable and efficient system that I believe would be accepted within the SORA framework as a reliable sensor for detecting aircrafts. It may be there, I just haven't seen it yet. The alternative is to actually use detection based on transponders, ADS-B, FLARM, trackers, and so on. But the current airspace is filled with aircraft, at least the uncontrolled airspace, that do not carry these trackers, typically small aircrafts. And some of them do not carry an airband radio either because it's not required in what is called the Class D airspace. So we actually have manned aviation out there that you can only see if you look out the cockpit of the aircraft. Somehow we need to be able to see those, and when we see them, we need to avoid. At current, the paradigm is that for now, drones will typically have to avoid the manned aviation. And the easy way to do this is to lower the altitude quickly of the drone to a point where there's no collision risk. But that does not work at all times. What happens if we have an aircraft that's just taking off or on the approach to landing? Then there may be a collision anyway. And there's no end solution for this at this point. People are experimenting, and so are we, but it's definitely not trivial. Then the key solution to the integration with manned aviation, as also was said by Kristian in the prior presentation, is U-Space. And here in Denmark, we are very happy that the U-Space Union project has taken off. It's led by the Danish Civil Aviation Authority and the air navigation service provider Naviair. And it essentially means that we are testing U-Space right now. And we are doing this at the island of Funen with a focal point on the Hans Christian Andersen Airport, where we have our National Drone Test Center. And then from there, it will spread out to other places in Funen when we are ready for it. And we will see the initial launch tomorrow, actually, and we will see the test flights begin here perhaps in the fall, but at least in the winter 2020, where we'll start actually testing how can drones establish a situational awareness of manned aviation surrounding it, and how can it avoid these manned aircraft, ensuring that there will be no mid-air collision. Another thing that we're looking very closely into is if this is going to scale, we definitely need to have a safe and reliable communication infrastructure for drones. Currently, many are running on point-to-point links, some are using 3D or 4G. But in order to ensure and validate that it's safe and reliable, we need something else. There are different solutions, but the one we believe most in currently is actually 5G. We believe that with the technology of 5G, that we can push that towards actually giving a quality of service statement to each drone, and we really are looking closely into this. I've used this presentation for highlighting a lot of the challenges in obtaining BVLOS operations. And I really, as I said in the beginning, I really like those challenges because there's a lot of interesting research going into it. Where are we at current? We are in Denmark flying BVLOS on a weekly basis. We expect next year to be able to fly from the island Ærøskøbing to the city of Svendborg, the city of Odense, using a small aircraft carrying blood samples. And we expect that in 5 years' time, we will see the first paramedics deploy in a person drone to an accident or to a sudden ill person. So I believe this will happen within the next very few years. There are challenges to solve, and we're working hard to solve them. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to come here and present our research.
Thank you very much, Kjeld. Thank you for joining Lorenz Digital Drone Summit this year, 2020. There was a lot of questions that I would like to ask you for my point, but I think we'll have to leave that because we are closing in on deadline. We're close to 12 o'clock, but I think interesting also the thoughts and the news regarding the U-Space Funen project, which, well, we can say we're allowed to be proud of it, and I think it's interesting and to see has been accomplished here due to, what do you say, partnership between research education, public authorities and private companies who actually joined together in this project. Kjell, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you for
We move on and close down. Thank you, Kjell. And this brings us to the end of the Lorenz Digital Drone Summit 2020. I hope that once again we have showed that drone tech development and drone tech implementation is basically driven by some very, very dedicated people out there in real business. We met Port Esbjerg, Jesper Bank, we have met Cornelius Toussaint from CONDOR, and we had both researchers and people from the commercial side, in this case DJI, on board on the summit. So it is about dedicated people to move this industry. It's also about identifying the use cases and turning them into business cases. And while doing so, building strong partnerships, strong relations in order to gain the highest level of insights. So it covers the whole field from research to platform and software producers over to public and private sector end users. We have come to the end of the Drone Summit 2020. Happy that you're here, Kristian, to actually sum up and close. I'll hand over to you to do the final remark on this Drone Summit. And from my point of view, from me, I was happy to be your host today. Kristian, please close down the Drone Summit for 2020.
Thank you, Søren. And yeah, first of all, a big thanks to you for hosting and moderating the event. I think it was done brilliantly. Thanks for that. Thanks to the brilliant speakers we had on stage today, both those who were with us externally, those who were here. I also would like to thank the whole Lorenz team for actually really performing this event. I think it's brilliant that that we're now at a stage where we can go out and show the world what we can actually do with the technology we developed. So thank you to the whole Lorenz team for helping out. And of course, a special last remark I think should be thank you to all of you listening in. We've been very proud and very happy that you have been with us today, and we really much hope to see you in the near future. Hopefully you will come and visit us, or we can come and visit you. Or at least we can do it online, but make sure that you reserve already now for next year. We will have the Lorenz Drone Summit next year again. We hope to take it even further than this year, but make sure that you reserve the 1st of September, Wednesday, the 1st of September 2021 for the next Lorenz Drone Summit. Thank you all for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.